Well, he's himself. I go with the.
Still,
He's done very good.
Hi, how are you?
Parts.
You're watching me, Brendan.
Okay, we're really close, I think.
Hi?
Okay, we're really close, I think.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, just
Yeah.
maybe tell the other guys just about that mic that you'll be handing,
Oh,
that
yes,
little
so I'll be
mic.
moving that. Anyone speaking, make sure your mic's in front of you.
Well, the little.
Oh, sorry, and this one.
That
Sorry.
That's
sorry.
it.
Whoa.
We want you at your best.
Yes, true. So good afternoon, everybody. Elaine Mullally is my name. And just want to welcome everybody here, the media and friends. So the Spoil the Vote campaign really belongs to nobody. Spoil the Vote. Sorry now. So. So I just want to make the point that despite the vote campaign, it doesn't belong to anybody, it doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the people of Ireland because, we don't have a voice, we haven't been given a choice in this election, that's what we all feel. And if we can just encourage people to do a video, do a post, share, like people's comments online. But the most important thing is if we can encourage people to show up next Friday, to go out, utilise their vote, to spoil it, to send a very clear signal back to government that we're not happy with the candidates that are in this particular presidential election. So there's 8 of us involved in the Spoil the Vote campaign online, and this is a specific website, www.spoilthevote.ie. We're trying to broaden that out as much as possible to include as many people as possible to come on board and join us and be part of the whole movement. It's not specifically ours. So I want to make that clear from the get-go. The people who are involved are just 2 to my right, Michael McCarthy and Declan Gandy. You're more than welcome. And Paul Trebow is to my right, to the left. And we have Ivor Cummins in the room with us. And we also have Nick Delahanty, Eddie Hobbs and Aidan Joyce, who are also very, very proactive and working with us. While I openly canvassed to try and get Maria Steen on the ballot, it was the first time I really realised how undemocratic our government are. And I firmly believe that even though I would have loved to see Maria on the ballot, I firmly believe that Nick Delahanty and Gareth Sheridan also should have been on that ballot paper. We should have had a choice in this election. That was the whole idea of a presidential. The people choose their president, not the government decide who you have to choose between. And now we're down to practically a 2-horse race. It doesn't feel like we have a voice. You can only say so much about Spoil the Vote. There's a lot more that can be said, and I have 3 other people here with me today who are going to help me and to put their opinions. And I want to make something else very clear. I don't agree with what everybody who I'm aligned with on this particular movement. I don't agree with everything that they say, and I don't have to. But we're all very much aligned on this particular campaign, on this particular topic. We are not happy with the way the government have forced us into this position. So I'll say a few words at the end, but if I could hand you over to Declan Gandy next.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Elaine. Just to add to that, or reinforce the same thing, it's very simple. This is about exercising your democratic right to go out and cast a ballot. It respects the democratic process. It respects the struggle and the historic story that brought us the ability to be able to cast a ballot, to exercise your democratic right. Nowhere does it say you have to vote for the options that you are presented and only the options you are presented. We have a situation here where, from my perspective, I would be on the centre right of politics in terms of my politics, that there are 3 candidates still on the ballot. Jim Gavin is still on the ballot. Although he's said he's withdrawn, he's still on the ballot. So there are 3 candidates on the ballot. They are all varying degrees of progressive left, from I would say progressive left light to far left progressive. And that's fine if that's your politics and that's where your vote is and that's where you're happy and you have a candidate on the ballot that you feel you can be enthusiastic for voting for. Great, I'm happy for you. I don't, and neither does a significant portion of the Irish electorate. We do not have somebody that we can enthusiastically cast a ballot for. But I want to respect the democratic process. So what I will be doing, and I just speak for myself here, is I will be going in and I will be spoiling my vote, putting an X beside the 3 empty boxes. I will be writing one Maria Steen on my particular ballot. Other people may not be doing that and won't be doing that. But that ballot will have to be counted. And that's worth reinforcing because it has been suggested or implied that that might somehow not be the case. That ballot will have to be counted just like every other ballot. And we will have a total at the end of the election of how many spoiled ballots were cast. And that is a very clear protest vote. It can't be confused for something else. So that's what I will be doing. I'm doing it because I believe that we need a competition of ideas. We need to have people on the ballot paper that are very different from each other in terms of their politics and their ideology. That's what democracy is about, the robust contest of ideas. We need to bring that back here to our country, and that's why I am calling for people to cast a spoiled ballot next Friday in the forthcoming presidential election.
Thanks, Declan. If you could, we'll just hand the mic down to Michael McCarthy. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I suppose the way I look at it is if the politicians were good and honourable, they would have nominated these other candidates. Nomination doesn't mean they're going on to the presidency. It means they get to debate and exchange ideas in front of everyone. And it means the public get to decide who they think best represents them. Those in power chose not to give that to the people, which I think is completely wrong, it's unfair, and it's unjust. An Irish Times poll came out that said, I think almost half of people have no one that represents them, which is incredibly unfair, it's unjust. I think that's why I'm spoiling my ballot, and I think everyone else should too. It's the way forward. If they're not gonna, in a democracy, if they're gonna rig the game so that you lose, do you play the game or do you call them out? And I think it's right of us to call them out and say, this isn't the right way to do it.
Thanks very much, Michael. Agree with your sentiments. And we have next up, all the way up from Killarney, is Paul Trevor. Thanks, Paul.
How are we doing, everybody? And lovely to meet you all. Thank you so much for coming here today. I think what's really important to understand is why we're here today. And the reason why we're here today is because, in my opinion, the government has made an absolute mockery out of democracy by forcing us to be here today, by giving us 2 candidates that a lot of people aren't in favour of. Did I want to vote for Maria Steen? Did I want to vote for Nick? Did I want to vote for... I don't know. But what I did want was the choice to be able to have. Do I want to vote for one of these people? And I wanted to see them in action. I don't want to see that a Taoiseach is visibly shook at a political party conference. I don't want to see that there's a slight tear in his eye. I want to make sure this never happens again. So when I talk to my son and he turns around and he goes, Dad, why are you going up doing this? Well, let's just say politics goes full circle, which it always does. And let's just say we have a far-right government in power right now, and we're given 2 far-right candidates to pick between. I'm pretty sure everybody else will be up in arms and will be here today. And that's what's crucial today, because people throughout history have given their time, have given their lives, have been shot in order for us to have the freedom of choice and the freedom to vote. And this government, and it has to be made very clear, this government has taken that away from us. We don't have that choice that we all wanted. And maybe we all would have gone with Catherine Connolly, maybe we all would have gone with Heather Humphreys, who knows? But we all wanted to see them in action, we all wanted to see them campaign and debate. And that choice was taken from us by this very government. That's why I'm here today. That's why I'm going to personally spoil my vote. And that's why I recommend that if you get the chance to do it too, I strongly recommend that you do it. But you must show up and vote. There's no point saying on Twitter, TikTok, oh, you're great and well done and will you run for president? That doesn't do anything. You got to cast your vote, because the government have done one other thing to us, that they've taken away our choice. Nowhere on the ballot sheet does it say none of the above. Nowhere does it say that I can cast a vote, that I'm not happy with any candidate that's there. So this is the way I will do it. I will spoil my vote. Will it change anything? No. Because one of the 2 candidates will get in as the presidency. But long term, it'll prevent the government from ever doing this again, because hopefully we will put enough egg in their face to say you can take as much as you want away from us, but you'll never take our choice of freedom away from us. And we won't tolerate it. And we won't stand for this again. And if you think you might have been visibly shook at your last political party meeting, well, wait until you see the amount of people that are going to come out. Because when you see 6% are polling, trust me, it's a hell of a lot more. They're not going to tell you how many really are doing it. And I see it on all my social media platforms. I see it on all the guys' social media platforms. And if half the people that say they're going to spoil their vote do actually spoil the vote, I can tell you now for a fact that it's going to be way more than 6%. And like Elaine said, this is not our campaign. This is everybody's. It's the people of Ireland's campaign. So everybody that is thinking spoil the vote, please do so next Friday when it comes to your turn to vote. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob. So have we any questions? Yeah.
Thank you. Robert Long here from Liberal.ie. There's obviously a lot of political discontent at the moment, and there's been something of a political awakening in Ireland in the last few years. What role would you say immigration has played in this political awakening?
Anyone?
I'll take it. It's very significant. I mean, it's and look, it's not unique to Ireland. This is a hot topic. I was in London yesterday. From right across Europe, this is the hot topic. It's illegal immigration, fraudulent asylum claims. People may not like it, and Ireland is a very charitable, very open-hearted country, and we do empathise with the downtrodden. We are a nation of immigrants ourselves. I speak with this accent because I am the child of immigrants from the west of Ireland, and so I've been an immigrant all my life, wherever I was. I get it. I'm married to an American, an Italian American, whose family immigrated from Naples to New York. The difference is constructive, positive immigration that adds to societies and adds to our localities and our economy. And we're not just economic units, we're much more than that. But people are deeply worried about the form that we are seeing of uncontrolled immigration, of unsecure borders. It is a hot topic anywhere now in the developed Western world, and it's very much a hot topic here in Ireland as people see in front of their eyes their localities transforming in real time in front of them. They are concerned. Their concerns have clearly not been addressed, are being ignored, they are being marginalised, and that has created a pressure cooker where this is a front and centre issue, whether we like it or not. And I say that, by the way, as somebody that employs people from 30 different countries here in Europe, and not all in Ireland, but mostly in Germany. But this is a hot issue wherever we are. Our governments have to grasp the bull by the horns and deal with this, and by ignoring it, we are left in a situation where people feel ignored, they feel marginalised, they feel like they've been called names. If you do that, you're going to just compound the problem. It needs to be addressed.
Thank you. Just very quick at end. Is this the beginning of a broader movement after the Spoil the Vote campaign has finished? I mean, there's a lot of energy here. Is this going to continue on into new further campaigns?
One thing at a time. This, as Elaine eloquently said earlier, what I have just said with regard to asylum and immigration, there will be people who will be going out and casting a ballot who completely disagree with me on that point. This is not a ballot that you're casting and just for that purpose. The whole idea of a democracy is that you have a competition of ideas, that we can hotly debate and disagree with each other peacefully and be able to exercise our view at a ballot box. That's been taken away from us. You don't have to agree with me on what I just said a couple of minutes ago. If you do not have someone on that ballot that gives you voice and represents your view, your hope for the future of Ireland, you have every right to spoil that ballot, whatever your reason may be.
Cormac.
Thank you.
Do you think encouraging stolen votes in this election, it could set a dangerous precedent for future elections? The future elections where you could have a Maria Stain on the ballot, and if people don't like her, they decide to spoil their votes. Is that not setting a dangerous precedent for future elections?
I don't believe so, because in the last election we had 6 candidates and 3 of those candidates got through the councils. We got no candidate through the councils. and one candidate in particular worked the councils for the last 12 months. He worked extremely hard and he was blocked. It was a pure block. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael blocked. This is not about democracy. This is not about us not seeing a Conservative candidate and we're not happy and we're throwing our toys out of pram. This is us having no choice. And all we wanted was a choice and then let the electorate decide. So I don't believe in setting precedent. I think if this is how it's going to be going forward, then we need to look at what changes need to be made, possibly within the constitution, to ensure it never happens again. Because it might be the first time in history that the whip system has been abused. So that's my view. I'm not sure if any.
Well, I think I'd add to that as well by saying that it won't set a precedent because, like I said at the start, the reason why we're here today is because our freedom of choice was taken from us. If I had the other three candidates to pick and choose from, there's no way I'd be sitting here today saying spoil the vote.
Yeah.
I think what's so really important is that this message goes straight back to the government, that we're here today because of how the government have basically looked down at the people of this country and said, it's a bit like Henry Ford. You can have whatever colour car you want as long as it's black. Well, the government have basically told us you can have whatever president you want as long as it's one of the ones we tell you to vote for. And that's not on. And I'm sitting here today for my children, for my grandchildren, to turn around and say, don't ever be afraid to stand up in the face of tyranny. Don't ever be afraid to turn around and tell the government that we're not going to tolerate this, because you might think you have the power. And every now and then when you come around to us every 4 or 5 years and kiss our ass or kiss our babies to turn around and ask for their vote, well, that's not going to work anymore. Because you have to turn around, and if I can convince anyone in this room that is looking at me going, there's no way I'm going to spoil the vote, if I can convince one person in the room or one person that's listening to us here today, then that's job done. This is about democracy. This is about future generations. This is about turning around to people saying, under no circumstance can a government tell you who you can vote for, because where does it stop? When you ask, will this set precedent of spoil your vote? Does what the government, what they've after doing, will that set precedent as well going forward? We'll tell you what councillors you can vote for. We'll tell you what TDs you can vote for. We'll tell you what MEPs you can vote for. Well, Micheál Martin, Simon Harris, that's it. It's done. We're not tolerating this anymore. We're standing up, and under no circumstance are we going to let you dictate to us how we live our lives.
So what sort of reforms do you want to see to the process of getting onto the ballot paper?
I can take it. There are a number of suggestions out there. I mean, one pretty straightforward reform would be to allow whatever the number is, 10,000, 20,000, what you pick a number, and many other countries do this, where you have, if you get signatures from voters, from people that are on the electoral register, citizens that are willing to sign and nominate you, whatever the number is, pick a number, and then you can have somebody get popularly nominated and get on the ballot paper. That's certainly one, I think, reform that's worth making. And the other thing is to make sure that the county council route, which is constitutionally provided for, cannot have the shutters pulled down on it in the way that we've seen this year. It's really important that that doesn't happen again. We saw in the last presidential election, 7 candidates at one point, or 6 candidates. Sorry, 6 candidates with nominations. And now we have, I think it looks farcical. So clearly we have to fix the county council route. Let's repair it and put it back to the way that it was, and let's introduce at least one other form of nominations, a popular form of nominations that would allow somebody to get on the ballot with enough signatures.
Will you accept the result of this presidential election next week?
Will I accept the result of it?
Just yourself personally.
I will have to see what the spoiled vote count is. If it's, I mean, there's a hypothetical that kind of is, that question sort of opens up, which is what happens if the spoil vote was a very, very significant number. And let's see what happens. And then I'll answer your question. That's why it's really important that people vote. Don't stay at home. And I would say the people that gave us these 2 candidates, if you are not prepared to vote for one of them, they want you to stay at home. Do not stay at home. Go and vote. And we're spoil the vote. Do not vote for Jim Gavin. A vote for Jim Gavin is a vote for Jim Gavin. That's all it is. And the only thing that that's likely to do is get your taxpayer money to fund for the election expenses of the Jim Gavin campaign. That's the most likely outcome of that. If Jim Gavin were to theoretically, quote unquote, win, there is no impediment to him taking office. And believe me, there will be editorials calling on him to do his duty and save the country from trauma and run. I don't think we will see that scenario happen. I don't believe so at all. But this is about the spoiled ballot is the cleanest way to register a protest.
Any other questions?
Could I say something?
Sure.
It's great to see that you have the media attention and that, it'll be getting out there probably quicker with the attention they're getting now. But there was a protest called in Dublin over the last couple of weeks, a spoil your vote rally. And there's a lot of people in this room that I certainly didn't see it, including 4 of you that are sitting at this table. And I'm wondering why, if you're so adamant that this is what we need to do, why weren't people there in O'Connell Street at the GPO saying this is what we need to do?
Everybody is going to have their own way of registering their objection to what's going on, and that is I respect. I live in the west of Ireland. I managed to get up here today.
Not difficult.
Yeah, well, I didn't know.
And fair play to you. But anybody that wants to express that, we're not going to have, and as Elaine said, we don't all agree on everything, but we agree on one thing. And the one thing that we agree on is that there is something broken in our democracy. It's manifested itself in this presidential election. And we have one thing that we can do. We can certainly go and protest, and we can go on marches. No, we didn't.
Anybody that's here did not protest.
I'll tell you, because it's not something that I felt called or to do. I can't even remember what I was doing that day.
Why aren't you sitting here now?
I'll tell you why. Because I'm going to spoil my ballot and I'm calling on people to do it. There are a lot of people in this country that will not go to a march and that will not go to the lengths and efforts that other people will go to draw attention to a particular issue. That for whatever reason it will be, whatever reason it might be,
Like they might be away for the weekend and they couldn't make it.
who knows? I mean, it could be that they just don't like going to marches. I know people that don't like going to marches. I spoke to a lady this morning, who's actually my bellwether for Irish elections, because she's not a very political person. She wouldn't go to a march in a million years. Never went on one in her life.
Well, that's why
Isn't
things are the way they are.
and you're right about that.
I
You're
know.
right about that. But interestingly, and I didn't ask her what she was going to do. She engaged me in discussion, and she told me that she's going to spoil her ballot. And I thought, okay, this is going to be big, because I was asked by a guard yesterday what I was going to do. He said he was going to vote for Jim Gavin to register a protest, and I said, well, don't do that, and I explained why. So we come at this with different levels of passion, different levels of engagement, different things that motivate us to want to spoil a ballot. But we agree on one thing, that we need to spoil a vote. I think you probably think there's something broken in Irish democracy in this election.
Everything is broken.
So you and I completely agree on that. There's one thing we can do about it next Friday, both of us, and that's spoil our ballot.
Well, you don't need to tell me that, but I do think that you need to put your money where your mouth is. And that's what I did at the protest, and that's what an awful lot of people did, and that's what an awful lot of people wanted, and that's what they're looking at on Facebook and Twitter.
No,
And
it's admirable. As I say, different levels of motivation. People have different ways of wanting to express their frustration, and I respect that. The great thing about, and I've been on marches and things in the past, on pro-life, for example, pro-life, which definitely there isn't agreement with everybody. But for example, and people didn't come to those things because they didn't agree with us, and and I get that. But one of the interesting
the people that agree.
No, yeah, exactly. So the if you have a march, and we've all seen it, and look, you can't even blame the media for this, because nobody really knows how to count heads at something like that. Hopefully there'll be an artificial intelligence tool that will be able to do this in an undisputable way in the not too distant future. But unlike a march, these spoiled ballots, every single one of them will be counted. We will know exactly how many people spoiled their ballot, and that's going to be a very interesting reference.
Well, my father was a very wise man and he always said action speaks louder than words.
You're right.
And he's
Thank
dead
you.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But see you all.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
your time.
Thank you. Sorry, we were in another room.
All right.
Well, I think just as well to follow up on that as well is that, like, I'm a Liverpool fan, and anybody who's supports Chelsea will agree with me that none of us want to see Man United win. Well, I'm not going to support Liverpool or Chelsea, and they're not going to support me, and I get that, and that's fine, which is exactly what Declan is saying. But if we can come together for the common good of one point, which is who is it that is against us? Who is it that is stopping us doing what we want, which is our freedom of choice and our freedom of democracy? And that's the government. And coming together, whether you're from that side, or that side, to share that one common goal is all that matters. And that's all we're trying to say to the people of Ireland. And Declan made probably the greatest point of it all today, was that you have to vote. If you agree with what we're saying, that the government are basically taking us all for fools, the only way you can make that count is to come out next Friday and cast your vote as a spoiled vote. That's the only way we're all going, and we can all agree with that. And I don't care if it's the Chelsea fans that take the support, or the what's the word I'm looking for?
Glory.
The glory. Thank you. We're a great team. I don't care if it's the Chelsea fans that take the glory. I don't care if it's the Liverpool fans. I don't care, as long as we get that glory. They're saying to us now it's polling at 6%. That's what the government are telling us. It's polling at a 6% of spoil the vote. I can tell you now, looking at all our social media platforms and Malachi's and anyone else who's in the room, it's a hell of a lot higher than that. It is absolutely a hell of a lot higher than that. And how do I know what I'm saying is the truth? Because they told us the same in the yes, yes referendum. No, no has no chance. It is absolutely 100% yes, yes. And they were completely wrong about that. They are scared stiff that this gets momentum. That if, as I said, if we can convince one more person, when they ask you what are you looking as a success for your figures in this spoiled vote, one more, as Declan said, one more than mine is a success. So could you imagine if we get one more than 6%? I think Elaine put up, that's already polling almost 400% higher than the highest spoil vote ever at 6%, what they're saying. Imagine if it comes in at 10. Imagine if it comes in at 15. How are the government going to sit in a room with world leaders and go, the hell went on in your country there? How in the name of God, you told them they could only vote for these two candidates and you have the audacity to slag Putin and Kim Jong-un in North Korea? That's what we're saying. So we'll disagree on 101 different things, but today's meeting is all about one thing. That is convincing an entire nation. And I said, what's really, really important, if you're pro Catherine Connolly and pro Heather Humphreys, either one, if this goes full circle, which it will in 10, 15, 20 years' time, and this precedent is set that the government decides who we can and can't vote for, your turn will come when you're sitting in a room trying to say, spoil the vote. That's all we're asking for. Look beyond your candidate. Look at what they're trying to do and suppress democracy in this country. That's how we beat them.
Yeah. There's a few new, is there any more journalists that want to ask questions?
They're actually in the wrong room.
Ori, have we any more questions? Because we're about to wrap up, we've covered a lot.
Okay, thank you.
For those that came late, would you mind giving a little summary, please?
Spoil
If
the
that's
vote.
possible.
We're just finish the live stream and then we'll have our
Thank you.
uninterrupted. Is that okay? So,
Yeah.
so yeah, just to finish off, I just want to thank everybody for coming today and thank you for all the questions. Some were tougher than others, but we got through it. And as Paul has said, 6% is where we are 1 week from an election. People generally don't decide until about 48 hours before how they're going to vote or who they're going to vote for. And at this point in time, to have 6%, we're already winning. And all we want is to keep creeping up bit by bit, talk to people on the ground. Yes, it's a huge online campaign, but where we meet people on the ground is where we bring them on board. And the more we speak to, the more people we engage with, the more people that we have this conversation with, and we're not trying to convince anybody, we're just trying to show people that this is not a democracy. What's happening feels wrong because it is wrong. And I would just finish on that and thank everybody and thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure.